Hello and welcome to my channel and to a Canvas Workspace video. In this video, I'm going to show you how incredibly easy it is to create a custom name card. We'll be using some of the process overlap functions as well as the offset. So if you want to learn how to do this, then stick with me and I'll show you how. I've opened Brother Canvas Workspace, and this is the download version. And for this, I want to make a card that has rounded corners. So I'm going to use this rectangle here. And then I'll make it whatever size I want. And I think I'm going to go with about, take off the aspect ratio. Let's make this 8 inches wide. And I'll go with about 2.5 inches in height to begin with. You can change that. And now I'm going to bring in, just give it some color there. Now I'll bring in a rectangle that is longer than the original one that has the rounded corners on it. It doesn't matter how big it is really, it's just as long as it will cover that. So what our aim is to make sure that it's going to cut these corners off. So you can just come down about like so. Pretty much eyeball it. And then that is on top. And you can see if I give it a different color, that is on top. So it needs to be on top in order to cut it out from this bottom piece. Go to process overlap and select subtract. And that gives us the shape. And we can play with that on the size. We can change all this later, of course. And I also want to make sure that I have an inside panel or layer for this. And to do that, I'm going to go to offset. And I'm going to use an inward offset. Rounded corners are fine. I think I'm going to go to just about 1/4 of an inch. And that will give me my little panel there. So I can use this to give this card a bit of a border, and then I can put any decoration or any sentiments that I want on that. So just move that out of the way for now. So now we want to bring in the name. Now this could be someone's name, it could be even something like wedding or baby, anything that you like. But we're just going to use a name, and I think I'm going to use the name Natalie. Natalie. And that has gone to the last font that I used, which was the Antique Oakland. I want to change that. Got one here that I'd like to use instead. It's this one, this Utah one. I'm not going to mess with the spacing, anything like that. I'm just going to stretch it out and pretty much just sort of get it to where I want it. Doesn't have to be exactly the same size as the underlying piece, but of course you could. And I'm also going to just make sure that it's overlapping that bottom piece, and check on the size of this now. Now I can change that. I'd like that just a little bigger, I think. So maybe around 4 inches. That would be fine. Right, now I want to make a copy of this because we're going to use the offset a little later, so that we have something to glue on top. So I'm going to duplicate that. I'm just move it out of the way for now. So let's go back to this. We've got our name here. So select both of these. I'm going to place them on the center alignment. And then I'm going to see what this is going to look like when I weld it. So I'll go to Process Overlap and Weld. And I think that's probably going to look all right. Let's see. Let's just take a look. This is going to be on top. That's not too bad. So I'm going to stick with that then. Now, what I want to do with this is to create a duplicate. And I'm going to now flip it vertically. And then I'm going to weld it to the other piece. Now, we can either do that by eye, or you could even use your distribute space function. Make sure that it's centered. And then I can weld that. And we have our card. I mean, it's really that easy. So let's give this some color. And the other thing we need to do, of course, is to have a fold or a score line down the center of this. And you can do that either by hand using the scoreboard, or you can create a score line in which you would just use your shift key. Oops. My mouse is a bit sensitive, so what I like to do then in that case is go to snap to grid. Then I don't have to worry about it. It'll just automatically keep it straight. So take that back off and go back to the edit function. And we're going to change this. I'll just come out a little bit more. Change that to a dash pattern. Under properties, choose the third one down, and then I'll select both of these and align them at the center and at the middle, horizontally and vertically. And that is really pretty good right there. And don't really I wouldn't worry about these. These are just going to cut through to the mat, and it's really so minimal that it's hardly even going to make a nick in the mat at all. So I would just leave it like that. You would group that, and then you would send that to your machine to be cut. Otherwise, what you would have to do if you were bothered by these is just to make individual lines, and I just not sure that's worth it. I think I'd rather either stick with this or just use my scoreboard. So I'm going to group this, and we'll move that down for now. Now we're going to bring in this piece, and for this I'm going to use, just change the color of that a little bit. Okay, so that's going to go onto the front of this. Like that. Okay, so what I want to do is also create an offset, so I have a second layer, just to give it a little more dimension, a little more, a 3D effect. So I'm going to go to process, oh no, actually go to offset, and I'm going to go inward. I already have this one set up, don't I? Yes. I'm going to go in just about no, I think that might be too much. Let's go to maybe 8 and see what this looks like. I'm going to change that to bevel. Right, and we'll see what that looks like. Just change the color. Okay. That's not too bad. Not sure I like that though. So I'm going to just, so I'm going to go to offset and change this to down a little bit to 6, I think. See what that looks like. Oh, that's better. So I just change the color in there. We can see. Right, so we're going to have 2 layers. So for this one, what I need to do now is use my process overlap and divide so that it will punch through these inner pieces here. We'll go back out. Delete those. And I'll just group this so that I can keep it together. You can see what all this is going to look like. Of course, these are going to be cut out individually, just as this will as well. But now we can bring in a card. We have the overlay and the second overlay. You could have it a little offset if you like, and you could, if you wanted to, repeat it on the back, but since that's going to be on the reverse, I don't think there's really any need for that. And then bring in the front panel there, and that is your custom name card complete. So now all you need to do is to break it up into its individual pieces. Send it over to your machine. We just push that off to the side there for now. and it's ready to go. So I'm going to export it. Some of the elements are outside of the dashed line, so we need to, this one here, just move that up a bit. That should be fine now. Export that, and we're going to send that wirelessly to our machine. Cut that out and we put this together. All the pieces are cut out now, and I'm ready to assemble. So I'm going to start by folding along that center line there, and I'll give it a bit of a burnish as well. Right. And then I have the panel, which is going to fit onto the front here. I'm going to glue this in place next. What I'm going to do is to layer these pieces together, just like so, and then they're going to go onto the front like that. I can glue those in place. And as I said, if we wanted to, you could repeat this for the back, but since that's not really showing, it's probably really not necessary. Actually, I think I'm going to use this glue. There we go. That's just going to go here on top, and that gives that a little more dimension. That's done, and I can now decorate this. And what I've done is gone through my stash, and I had some of these pieces here, which I've cut previously for my scan and cut, and then I had this already pre-printed sentiment birthday girl, which I'm going to glue onto the scallop piece, and then what I do is put that onto the front with some foam squares to give it a little extra dimension. Put this into place. Then I'm going to take some of these foam dots, place them along here. Take the backs off. that into place. So I've got various greens and yellow tones here for this. And then for the butterfly, I'm just going to glue this down. But I will try and lift these wings a little bit to give it more of a 3D look. We can just curl those up like that. And I can place one of these little gemstones in here. Yeah. Oh, I think that looks just fine like that. And then, of course, on the inside, you can write your message, or you can put a piece of white paper. You know, just you could cut this out again and just paste that in here for a message. Or you could write your message on the back, of course. So there is the finished card, the custom name card. And it was so very, very easy to make with Canvas Workspace and, of course, your brother Scan and Cut. Thank you very much for joining me today for this video, and I hope that you are subscribed to the channel, and if you aren't already, then please consider doing so today. Those of you who are, thank you so much indeed for your continued support. Now, until we meet again, please stay safe and crafty hugs. Bye.